The phone is silent. But the silence is not empty. It is a presence in the room, a weight on your chest. Your body is still waiting for a sound that your mind has told you to stop expecting. It's a strange, physical vigilance, a tension in your shoulders, a quickening of your breath when you pick up your phone for another reason, a split second of hope, followed by a familiar, dull ache. You have replayed the last conversations. You have searched for the wrong word, the moment the energy shifted. You've asked friends, who offer simple explanations. He's busy. He's not interested. Just move on. And you nod, because it is the logical thing to do. But logic does not reach the part of you that knows something else. The part of you that felt a connection so real, it feels impossible that it could simply vanish without a trace, without a sound. This isn't the clean silence of a closed chapter. This is the humming silence of a machine left running in another room. It's the silence of a half-open door. He hasn't slammed it shut, but he won't invite you in. And you are left standing in the hallway of your own life, your gaze fixed on that gap, wondering if the breeze you feel is a promise or just a draft. This is the torment of emotional inconsistency, when the energy you felt and the behavior you receive are two different stories. Your intuition says he thinks of you. His silence says he does not. And you are caught in the middle, questioning not just him, but your own sanity. You begin to believe that perhaps you imagined it all, that the depth, the recognition in his eyes, the ease of conversation, was a story you told yourself. But this is where the surface-level explanations fail us, because the deeper truth is far more uncomfortable and complex. The silence is not proof of his indifference. In many cases, it is the very opposite. It is a fortress built around a feeling that has grown too large for him to control. He is silent not because he feels nothing, but because what he feels threatens the very structure of his world. And the most powerful threat to a man's guarded ego is not rejection, but true, profound intimacy. What you are experiencing is not a simple game of pursuit and retreat. You have stumbled upon the battlefield of his inner world. You have, without knowing it, activated a deep psychological mechanism, the profound fear of losing control in the face of a genuine connection. His silence is not a message to you. It is a desperate attempt to regain command over himself. To understand this, we must move beyond the simple mechanics of dating and into the realm of the psyche, the world that Carl Jung dedicated his life to mapping. Jung understood that human beings are governed by powerful, unseen forces within them. The conscious mind, the ego, wants control, predictability, and safety. But the unconscious is a vast, wild ocean of feelings, archetypes, and unresolved wounds. When a man meets a woman who truly sees him, who resonates with a deep part of his soul, she doesn't just activate his attraction, she activates his unconscious. Specifically, she gives a face to what Jung called the anima. The anima is the inner feminine image within a man's psyche. It is not just his idea of women, it is the personification of his own soul, his capacity for relatedness, for feeling, for life itself. When the connection is superficial, the anima remains a distant, manageable fantasy. But when the connection is real, the anima projection lands on a real person. Suddenly, this inner figure is looking back at him through your eyes. And for a man who has built his identity, his persona, around control, independence, and emotional suppression, this is terrifying. It is like someone living in a meticulously organized, gray-toned house who suddenly finds a wild, vibrant garden growing in the middle of his living room. It is beautiful, yes. It is alive. But it is not in its proper place. It defies his rules. It threatens to overwhelm the sterile order he has worked so hard to maintain. His first instinct is not to tend to the garden, but to board up the windows and pretend it isn't there. His silence is him boarding up the windows. The thoughts are there, the memories of your conversations, the sound of your laugh, the way you looked at him. These are not absent. They are, in fact, the very things he is trying to contain. He is thinking of you, but he is thinking of you as a problem to be solved, a variable to be controlled. The feeling you sparked in him is no longer a source of joy. It has become a threat to his sovereignty. His ego, the gatekeeper of his conscious identity, sounds an alarm. This is too much. This is too fast. I am losing myself. I am becoming vulnerable. Vulnerability, to an ego built on strength and self-sufficiency, feels like death, so it pulls the emergency brake. And that emergency brake is silence. It is distance. It is a deliberate severing of the connection to starve the feeling of its oxygen. He retreats into the fortress of his own mind, believing that if he can control the communication, he can control the feeling. He might tell himself he's just being logical. He might rationalize it, saying the timing is wrong, or that he's not ready for something serious. These are the stories the ego tells itself to justify its fear. The real reason is not logical, it is primal. The prospect of genuine intimacy feels like a surrender, a loss of the control he equates with his very identity. This is the paradox that is tearing you apart. His distance is a measure of your impact. The more profound the connection you offered, the more drastic the retreat. A shallow attraction would have been easy for him to handle. It would have been a game he knew how to play. But you offered something that felt real, and in doing so, you unwittingly challenged the foundations of his emotional world. So he sits in his silence, reviewing the data. He replays your interactions, not with warmth, but with analysis. He is looking for a loophole, a flaw, a reason to disqualify the connection so he can feel safe again. He is thinking of you, but he is trying to shrink you back down into a manageable size, to turn the living garden back into a simple, framed picture on the wall. And what does this do to you? You, on the other side of this silence, feel the withdrawal not as his problem, but as your failure. His retreat activates your own deepest fears. The most common wound it triggers is the abandonment complex. An abandonment complex is not just about being left. It is a deep-seated belief that you are fundamentally flawed, and that eventually, everyone will leave once they see that flaw. When he goes silent, this complex whispers a cruel, familiar story in your ear. See, it happened again. You were too much. You were not enough. You showed your true self, and he ran. There is something wrong with you. This is the hook. This is how his fear becomes your shame. His internal battle is projected outward, and you accept that projection as a verdict on your worth. You start to believe that if you could just be different, less intense, more patient, more mysterious, less available, you could fix it. You could make him feel safe enough to return. And so begins the agonizing process of self-editing. You watch your phone, not to live your life, but to perform a role. You calculate how long to wait before posting a story. You craft a persona of being unbothered, happy, and free, all while your inner world is in turmoil. You are no longer living, you are strategizing. You are trying to solve the puzzle of him, believing that the key to your own peace lies in his response. But this is the great deception. You cannot solve his inner conflict for him. You cannot make his ego feel safe from his own soul. Trying to do so is like trying to calm a storm by whispering at the clouds. The storm is not about you. You are simply the one who brought the rain. The real work, the only work that can truly set you free, is to turn your attention away from his half-open door and look at the hallway you are standing in. What does this situation reveal about you? Why has his silence taken you hostage? This is the point where the journey turns from him to the self. Carl Jung would say that this painful experience is not a meaningless cruelty of fate. It is a powerful opportunity for individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, separate from the roles you play and the validation you seek from others. This man, in his fearful retreat, is holding up a mirror to you. And in that mirror, you can see the parts of yourself that you have abandoned in the pursuit of connection. You can see the part that believes love must be earned through perfect behavior, the part that is terrified of being alone, the part that has outsourced its sense of worth to the gaze of another. His silence hurts so much not just because you miss him, but because it validates a deep-seated fear that you are not worthy of being chosen. The pain is a signal fire, pointing to an old wound within your own psyche. His withdrawal did not create the wound, it simply poured salt on it. The first step toward healing is to reclaim the narrative, to stop seeing his silence as a reflection of your worth and start seeing it as a reflection of his fear. This is not about blaming him. Blame is just another way of staying focused on him. This is about understanding the dynamic with radical clarity. He is in a cage of his own making, a cage built from the fear of vulnerability. And you have been standing outside the cage, begging him to come out, not realizing you are free to walk away at any moment. Walking away is not about a dramatic exit. It is not a tactic to make him chase you. That is still a game, still focused on his reaction. True walking away is an internal shift. It is the conscious withdrawal of your psychic energy from him. It is deciding that your peace of mind is more important than solving the mystery of his. Imagine your focus, your thoughts, your emotional energy as a stream of light. For weeks or months, you have been directing this entire stream at his half-open door, waiting for a sign of life. The act of reclaiming your power is to slowly, consciously, turn that stream of light back onto yourself. What does this look like in practice? It means you stop checking his social media, not as a rule of willpower, but because you genuinely start to find your own life more interesting. It means when the thought of him arises, you acknowledge it. Ah, there's that thought again. And then gently guide your attention to your own breath, to the feeling of your feet on the ground, to the task in front of you. It means you stop talking about him endlessly with your friends. You give the story a rest. You let the air clear. You create space in your mind for new thoughts, new ideas, new possibilities that have nothing to do with him. This process will feel uncomfortable at first. Your nervous system has been conditioned to seek resolution from him. Turning away will feel like giving up. The abandonment complex will scream that if you stop focusing on him, he will forget you completely, and your worst fear will be realized. You must be willing to feel that fear and not act on it. This is the heart of the work, to sit with the anxiety of not knowing and to choose your own center over the chaotic pull of his drama. To mother the frightened part of yourself that believes it needs his validation to be okay. You can say to that part, "I know you are scared, but I am here. I will not abandon you. We do not need to wait by this door anymore." As you begin to pull your energy back, something remarkable happens. The dynamic begins to shift. He may not even be consciously aware of it, but on an energetic level, he will feel your absence. The pressure is off. The stream of light that was focused on his door is gone. The hallway is empty. For the first time, he is left alone with his silence. He is left alone with the garden in his living room. There is no one outside trying to coax him out. There is no one to blame for his unease. He can no longer tell himself he is pulling away because you are too much. You are no longer there. Now, any discomfort he feels is entirely his own. This is the moment where true change is possible for him. Without your energy feeding the dynamic, the silence stops being a tool of control and starts being what it truly is: empty, lonely. He is now confronted with the consequences of his own fear. He is forced to feel the space you once occupied. Will he reach out? It is possible. He might send a casual text, a breadcrumb, to see if you are still waiting by the door. He needs to know if his control over the dynamic is still intact. This is the critical test for you. If you respond with immediate, effusive warmth, you rush right back to the hallway, and the old pattern resumes. You have shown him that his control is absolute, that he can leave you in silence for weeks and summon you back with a single, low-effort message. But if you have truly been turning your focus inward, your response will be different. Not cold or punitive, but calm, detached. You are no longer a participant in his anxiety. You might respond politely, but you do not offer up your emotional world on a platter. You are busy living your life. Your energy is occupied with your own growth, your own joy. He will feel this shift immediately. It is unnerving for an ego built on control to find that its power has vanished. The woman who was once so available, so focused on him, is now a self-contained entity. Her happiness is no longer dependent on his communication. This is what truly inspires respect. Not games, not tactics, but the undeniable reality of a woman who has found her center of gravity within herself. He now sees that the half-open door was not a position of power for him, but a crutch, and you have walked away from it. Now, the choice is his. To earn his way back into your life, he cannot just open the door a little wider. He must walk out of the fortress of his ego, face his fear of intimacy, and learn to tend to the garden within himself. He must be willing to be vulnerable, to communicate, to risk the loss of control that he fears so much. Most men who are deeply entrenched in this pattern will not be able to do this. It is a terrifying journey that most are not equipped to make. They may retreat for good or find someone else who poses less of a threat to their ego, someone who does not activate their anima so powerfully. And this is where your true liberation lies. You realize that his return was never the prize. The prize was you. The prize was the self-worth, the peace, and the wholeness you discovered when you stopped waiting in the hallway. You have healed the underlying wound that made his silence so devastating. You have learned to source your validation from your own self, the indestructible core of your being that Jung spoke of. The self is not the ego. The self is the totality of your psyche, conscious and unconscious. It is the organizing intelligence within you that is always moving toward wholeness. This entire painful episode was a call from yourself to come home. The man and his silence were merely the catalyst, the irritant that forced you to create the pearl of your own inner sovereignty. If this experience has named something you have felt but never been able to articulate, take a moment to acknowledge the journey you have been on. It is not a journey of romantic failure, but one of profound psychological deepening. You have been initiated into a deeper understanding of yourself and the hidden forces that shape our connections. The fear of intimacy is a powerful shadow in the collective human psyche. It is the fear of being truly seen, because being seen means we can no longer hide our imperfections, our needs, our messy, beautiful humanity. A man who runs from intimacy is running from his own soul, and a woman who chases him is, for a time, running from hers as well, believing it can be found in him. The healing is in the return to your body, to your life, to your own sacred presence. When you are fully inhabiting your own life, you are no longer a ghost haunting the hallway of a relationship that isn't happening. You are the queen in your own kingdom. And from this place of sovereignty, you see the half-open door for what it was. Not a promise, but a lesson. A lesson in where to place your attention. A lesson in the difference between a connection that nourishes you and a dynamic that drains you. If he does come back, and if he has done his own work, he will meet a woman who is no longer willing to accommodate his fear. A woman whose boundaries are not walls to punish him, but the loving embrace she gives to herself. She will require honesty, consistency, and vulnerability, not because she is demanding, but because she will never again settle for a love that requires her to abandon herself. And if he never comes back, the peace you feel is even more profound, because you realize you didn't need him to close the door. You simply needed to remember that you were never trapped in the hallway. You had your own path to walk all along. The silence that was once a source of torment has become a space of quiet strength. It is the sound of your own life, waiting for you to live it. My peace is no longer waiting at someone else's door. It is the ground beneath my own feet. This realization is not just a thought, it is a felt sense. It lands in your body. For the first time in a long time, you feel your own weight, solid and real. This is the body memory layer of healing. Throughout this ordeal, your body has been a silent partner in your suffering. It has been locked in a state of high alert, flooded with the stress hormones cortisol and adrenaline. This is the fight, flight, or freeze response. The silence from him was perceived by your nervous system as a threat, a danger, and you were frozen, waiting. You felt it as a knot in your stomach, a tightness in your throat when you wanted to speak your truth, a shallow breath that never seemed to reach the bottom of your lungs. Your body remembered other times it felt abandoned, other doors that closed, other silences that felt like annihilation. This is the power of cellular memory. The current pain was not just about him, it was an echo, a resonance chamber for every past hurt that was never fully processed. Reclaiming your energy is a somatic process. It is about guiding your body out of that frozen state. It is the conscious decision to take a deep, belly-filling breath, signaling to your nervous system that the threat has passed. You are safe. You are not in danger. You are in your own body, in your own life. You can do this right now. Feel the chair supporting you. Feel the air on your skin. This is the beginning of coming home to yourself, not as a concept, but as a physical reality. When you practice this return to the body, you start to digest the undigested emotion. You might find yourself crying, but the tears feel different. They are not tears of desperate pleading, but tears of release. You might feel anger, a clean, powerful energy that allows you to fortify your boundaries. This is your life force returning, no longer leaking out toward him, but flowing back into you. You are literally re-inhabiting yourself. And as you become more embodied, you gain the clarity to see his side of the dynamic with even greater depth, moving beyond his fear and into his shadow. The shadow, in Jungian terms, is everything we have repressed about ourselves, everything we deem unacceptable. For many men socialized in a culture that prizes stoic independence, the shadow contains their neediness, their dependency, their raw vulnerability, and their deep yearning for connection. His ego, his conscious persona, is built on the image of being strong, capable, and in control. But his shadow self is the little boy who longs to be held, to surrender, to be seen in his weakness without judgment. When you connected with him, you didn't just meet the man, you met his shadow, and it terrified him. He saw his own disowned neediness reflected in your open heart, and he recoiled. He called you too much, because his own feelings, stirred by you, were too much for him. He projected his own shadow onto you. The part of him that desperately wanted to merge was the very thing his ego had to crush. His silence was not just him pushing you away, it was him trying to kill a part of himself. Understanding this allows you to release the last vestiges of self-blame. You were not too much. You were a mirror to a part of him he could not bear to face. This insight also invites you to look at your own shadow. When you were deep in the pain of his silence, what parts of you emerged? Did a desperate, manipulative part of you surface, wanting to post things online just to get his attention? Did a vengeful part fantasize about hurting him as he hurt you? Did you feel a sense of righteous victimhood that, while understandable, also kept you powerless? Do not judge these parts. This is your shadow, activated by the wound. It is the collection of survival strategies you learned as a child to try and secure love and avoid abandonment. The goal is not to shame this shadow, but to bring it into the light of your awareness, to see it, to own it, and to integrate it. You can say to that part of you, I see you. I see how scared you are. But we don't need these tactics anymore. We can provide our own safety now. By integrating your own shadow, you become whole. You are no longer just the good girl who waits patiently. You are a full woman, powerful, aware, and complete, with access to all parts of yourself. As this integration happens, you will notice concrete inner signs of your freedom. The first is a sense of spaciousness. Where there was once a constant mental chatter about him, there is now quiet. It might feel strange at first, but soon that quiet becomes a canvas. You start having new ideas. A project you put on hold suddenly seems exciting again. You feel a creative impulse, a desire to write or paint or dance. This is your soul's energy, no longer fixated on him, finally available for your own expression. Another sign is a change in your perception of beauty. You start noticing the world again. The way the light hits the leaves on a tree, the taste of your morning coffee, the sound of a song you love. These small sensory joys were drowned out by the noise of your anxiety. Now they return, and they feel like gifts. You are finding pleasure not in the hope of his validation, but in the simple, profound act of being alive. You are falling in love with your own life. This is the state you are in when the late practical test inevitably arrives. The breadcrumb was a test of your attention. This next test is a test of your reality. It often comes after a longer period of silence, after he has truly felt your absence. He has sat alone in his fortress and found it cold. He misses the garden. This is not a casual text. This is the Hoover. He might reappear with a long, emotional message. He might tell you he's been going through a hard time. He might apologize profusely, telling you everything you ever wanted to hear. He might say he made a terrible mistake, that he thinks about you constantly, that no one has ever made him feel the way you do. The old you would have melted. The old you would have seen this as the ultimate victory. But the new, integrated you feels something different. You feel a calm, discerning stillness. Your first instinct is not to celebrate, but to observe. Here is how you discern the truth. Is his message about his feelings, or is it about your experience? A man who is just trying to pull you back in will talk endlessly about his own pain, his own struggle, his own epiphany. I felt so lost. I was so scared. I realized I need you. It is still all about him. He is using his vulnerability as a new tool of control, trying to engender your sympathy and pull you back into the role of healer. A man who has genuinely begun to do his work will center your experience. His message will sound more like, I know my silence must have been incredibly painful and confusing for you. There is no excuse for that behavior. I was operating from a place of fear, and that is my responsibility. I understand if you have no space for me in your life now, but I needed to own my impact on you. See the difference? The first is a plea. The second is an act of accountability. The first wants to get a reaction from you. The second offers an explanation without demanding a particular response. Your test is to trust your body. When you read his message, what happens in your nervous system? Does your chest tighten with a familiar anxiety, a sense of pressure to manage his emotions? Or do you feel a sense of calm clarity, an ability to see the situation for what it is? Trust that somatic signal above all else. Your body knows the difference between true change and a more sophisticated manipulation. You may choose to respond, or you may choose not to. The power is that the choice is truly yours, free from compulsion. If you do respond, it is from a place of sovereignty. You are not auditioning. You are not negotiating. You are simply stating your reality, which might be, I appreciate you sharing that. I've done a lot of work to find my own peace, and I'm not willing to re-enter a dynamic that feels unstable. There is no anger in this. There is no punishment. It is the simple, powerful truth of a woman who has built her house on her own land. She will not abandon it for a beautiful garden that grows in someone else's chaotic living room. And so, we arrive at a place of soft closing, a place of compassion. As you stand firmly on your own ground, you may look back at him, still wrestling with his own fortress, and feel a sense of grace. Not pity, which comes from a place of superiority, but compassion, which comes from a shared understanding of the human struggle. You see his fear not as a personal insult, but as a tragic limitation that keeps him from the very love he likely craves. You can wish him well on his journey, from a distance, without needing to be a part of it. More importantly, you extend this compassion to yourself. You forgive the woman you were who waited by the phone, who diminished herself in the hopes of being chosen. She was not weak or foolish. She was doing the best she could with the tools she had, trying to heal an old wound in the only way she knew how. You can thank her for her tenacity, for her deep capacity to love, and for holding on so tightly that it finally forced you to learn how to let go. She led you here. She led you home to yourself. The silence that once felt like a weapon is now just silence, an absence of sound. It no longer holds any power over you because your inner world is filled with your own music. You have learned that the most profound connection you will ever experience is not with a man who is afraid of his own soul, but with the vast, wise, and loving self within you. That connection is constant, it is reliable, and it will never, ever go silent.